I went to the corner, my friends, they weren't there. They said, hey man, you want your share? I turned around and walked away. I didn't want to live nowhere. Street corners with the finest of youth.
Hey there, Douglas Scott McCarron again. I've been looking at myself about, being overweight. I've actually lost 12 pounds. Yeah. Got a long way to go, but it's only 1 month in about of this program I'm on, so that's cool. So I have a note here to myself about what I want to talk about here. What good is it to be a perfect personality that isn't even you? I've mentioned in a couple of these before that most of what I lived in most of my life was a result of a bunch of thoughts and presumptions and explanations and understandings about how life is. It's just, this is the way life is. And in my case, I sucked, nobody loved me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I kept looking for the perfect explanation or understanding that would help me perfect it and get it right. And I've also mentioned that I had this experience where I became calm and peaceful when the whole game stopped. This internal game, this internal story, this internal seething and anger. And it's kind of connected. So I've mentioned this before. Your name was made up by your parents. It's not you. And yet, you, I, everybody are fairly well convinced they are that name. But it's not who you were when you were born. I got named Douglas Scott McCarron. Everybody called me Doug. Hey, Doug. Hey, Doug. Hey, Doug. Quit spilling things, Doug. Go over and do that, Doug. Do your homework, Doug. We love you, Doug, but we hate you, Doug. And on and on and on. And over the course of, a certain amount of time, I became Doug. And then the personality that I have was a response to my internal judgments and the impacts of things around me. Was it one of the, I grew up thinking that I didn't matter, that my parents well, I don't know, it's not even resent. They just didn't want me. My mom told me a couple of times that if she hadn't had a miscarriage, I never would have been born. I think I got one birthday cake as a kid. I could go on and on and on about all this frustrating, what is the word, emotionally abusive stuff as I look back at it. Of course, now that I'm older, I also get that my mom and my dad also went through the same thing, so that's what they brought to the table when they had me. And nobody really kind of pointed out to them that that wasn't them. They, I, everybody have an explanation of the world that's designed to protect you and keep you from getting hurt. But you also presume that it's absolutely right and it's you. So I get this name that's not me. And then I have a series of beliefs, protections, shields, how it should be, this is wrong if it's not the way I want it, I don't get my way, so I'm angry, but I shouldn't be angry, so I suppress myself. This all just kind of piles up and circles around, and chases each other around inside of our being. And it's more than just, thoughts and words. This is like a definite energetic pattern. And again, I've talked about it, it's like this kind of cocoon. You live within it, and it's like this multifaceted reflecting mirror that gives all these different angles about how everything's interconnected and it's all one. And I kept running on the theory that, I need to look at all of these and solve each one and understand how they are and how they interact with each other. And then once I had the perfect explanation, everything would make sense and I'd understand. So I did that for 50-something years, 60-something years. But it all kind of came back to the central assumption was there's something wrong with me and I need to figure this out. And I kept working on my personality and my beliefs and everything. But I had this experience, I think I told you that, I had this experience where it all stopped and went quiet. But before that, a couple of years before, I had this experience where I was like completely becoming unhinged about a friend of mine who, again, I had assigned the job of being the girl who would prove I didn't suck. But I, at this point now, realized that, if she's not responsive to me and she's not open to me, who the heck am I actually thinking I'm in love with? Yeah, a lot of guys do it. Maybe women probably do it too. But you're always hearing stories about guys, telling a woman they love her, and she's like, "Well, I don't love you," and then he beats her up or throws acid on her, or "If I can't have you, nobody can have you." And it's invariably some male in the 13s to early 20s. Not always, but there's just this. I project, well, that's not even true. You have groups of guys get upset at one woman and they'll attack her. And it's all just, everybody's got this upset and women are supposed to be this way and I can do whatever I want because it's all a reflection of me. It's a reflection of this inner story, this inner feeling and trauma and just this energy. It just dominates everybody. But the thing is, this name isn't you, it's just made up. All these explanations that are going on are just reactions and explanations that got made up. So they're also just made up and not really you. Now, I got kind of flipped out the first time I thought that because, of course it's me. I reject all this. My personality defines who I am. But I've come to the realization that what all that personality defines is itself, not me. It actually runs independent of me. I brought it up before, Try and stop your thoughts. Try and stop your feelings. They just keep grinding along, with or without you, doing the same story over and over and over. I kept thinking I was evolving, but I was basically, developing and more thoughts and evolving my thoughts and maturing. But when I finally looked at it, I was basically just living two sentences that I decided when I was younger were true over and over and over, and just coming with more defined and refined and defined explanations and proofs of what I believed. Well, what good was it doing me? And what good is it to perfect a personality and a name that aren't you? All that does is keep you in the belief that something's going to happen if you understand it all. And I think that's kind of how the cocoon holds you. It sits there and has this feeling that something's wrong. And if I could only figure it out and see it, I'll be liberated from it. Except the whole presumption is you are it. And that's how the cocoon holds you and tortures you. Now, the interesting thing is the cocoon also protects you. I told you about this friend of mine who would take her clothes off in front of me and told me this stuff about her uncle abused her and on and on and on. that was some kind of protection thing she had. I absorbed it, and I'm like, I'm really sexually attracted to this woman, but I probably shouldn't do anything because I suspect something illegally horrible will happen to me. Good defense. Having the bully threaten you as a kid, you learn, well, I can either get into a fist fight with a bully or I can do something else. Most bullies eventually get beat up by some other bully. And, and then they sit there and project their anger and worthlessness. I mean, it's one of the things that's invariably true about bullies is they think they're the victim. And so they need to be a bully to protect themselves. But it's like, again, you're not the name. That was made up by your parents. All the stuff you sit there and stew about and have fights with inside yourself. And I don't know if you do. I, for decades, would sit in my chair and just, my being was just occupied with those people from that particular whatever group. They're evil and people are doing these things in my thoughts. And I just sit there at the table and grind on about it. My guts just grinding away. I can remember my dad sitting at the table just like, night after night, 3 or 4 hours. He was, I think I mentioned before, if anything was done wrong by the kids, he got hit. So his sisters would go out and do things, so he got hit. What do you think the possibility is that he was upset at his dad for hitting him for things he didn't do? He did learn not to hit me because, he'd been treated so badly. I can only imagine what happened to my dad. I mean, it's just hundreds of generations of out-of-control children getting beat by their parents to get them to stop being out of control. And then those kids go have kids and do it again. And, oh, wait, there's somebody who looks different than me or has a different color. Well, I don't have to, treat them well. They're foreigners. So we'll go treat them bad. And just on and on and on. You got a name. You get this whole story. You get all this agitation and aggravation in this cocoon, and it aggravates you. And then you go out and attack each other and fight each other and march around in uniforms that resemble each other's uniforms and shoot each other and on and on and on. Just all kind of pointlessly grinding through all this stuff. Some people even think they're going to get glory out of it, but the vast majority of people who die in the military die out in the middle of nowhere and then get eaten by bugs. And people, write songs about it, and then they're like, oh, full of, this person has glory. And then, of course, people are singing all those songs. They all die. It's all just kind of silly to me. It's the only thing really worth doing is waking up from the cocoon and discovering you aren't the name or the personality. Discovering means to uncover who you actually really are. Thank you.